All right, so let's go ahead and start our co-op panel. So we're gonna have all the panelists introduce themselves and sort of just say like what year you are. Or wait, actually, Caroline, you know what? You're moderating. You can go for this.
All right. Hi, everyone. Yeah, just kidding off. If we want to start off, well, first how we're going to do it is we're going to have everyone introduce themselves, and then we're going to ask a few questions that we already have, and then open it up for audience questions. And how we're going to do introductions, since we can't just go down the table, is if you guys can do a reaction of like a thumbs up, and then so we'll know who all the panelists are, and then we'll popcorn it. So you just call on someone, and you can hopefully we'll hit everyone. So if you guys could just give your name, your year, your major, and where you have co-oped. Right, Ashley, if you want to begin.
Okay, so I'm Ashley Knehans. I'm a 5th year, and I've co-opted at Zero VFX. Here's the proof. And I am currently co-oping as a part-time co-op student in the VR lab. So, should I popcorn it, I guess?
Yep.
All right, B.
Hi. Fuck you and your little icon, Anthony. My name is B, and I love Anthony. That was just a joke. But I am a 5th year as well, and I am an animation and game art major. Not really sure what the game art is yet. I'm still waiting for next semester. And I have worked at Zero VFX, like Ashley, and as well as the Red Sox multimedia position, doing VR and like 3D assets for them. So I'm going to popcorn it to Anthony.
I'm also an animation and game art major. I've only co-opted at Wayfair in their 3D visualization team. I'm a 4th year now. And I think that covers it. Oh, who wants it?
There's
Ian.
only one other person.
Thanks, Anthony, for remembering me. I'm Ian. I'm a 4th year animation student, and I co-opted at Wayfair, but I was on the motion graphics team instead of the 3D team like Anthony was.
All right.
Should I not swear or anything because we're filming this? What is this being filmed for?
We're gonna put it on our YouTube. So if
Okay,
anybody,
I'll clean up my act a little bit. Maybe
no.
cut that part out.
yeah, we might have to do some edits.
Put the fatal error thing over your mouth when you.
Yeah, right now you only have that one, so we're good.
Yeah,
I
but if
think
anybody
it's
else
okay,
decides,
yeah, maybe do that.
yeah, everyone be on your best behavior.
Okay, so first question is about applying, and if you guys could just speak, it doesn't have to be everyone, not everyone has to answer, but if you want to talk about what the interview process was like for either one or both of your co-ops, and some typical interview questions that you ran into while you were applying.
Who's going first? Am I going first?
You can go first.
All right. In my interview, the way they did it at Wayfair is I actually interviewed with like the person who would eventually be my manager. I'm sure it's like that at most places, unless you have like some random recruiter interviewing you, or like if it's a company that's not in Boston. But yeah, they brought my laptop, pulled up my portfolio. They asked me like some questions about it, stuff like what's a piece that you liked working on, because they really want to see like you go through like how you go about working. They also ask you like your pretty run-of-the-mill personal questions about like why do you want to work here. So definitely doing your research on the company is definitely a big thing. I'm sure every co-op advisor tells you that ever though. What else? What's another like common question? And also if you can just get them talking about stuff that they like that goes along with stuff you like, and you actually make it I would say the best advice I can have is like make it a conversation, not just like don't let them just sit there and interrogate you. Usually they want to actually talk to you as well, would be like probably my biggest tip for interview.
Yeah, that's a good point. Trying to like during an interview, this isn't necessarily about questions, but etiquette. if you show interest in the company and ask them, what's like a day-to-day tasks here? What's the most exciting project you guys have worked on? Like just showing that you've like done research on the company is really good as well. Just so it doesn't look like you are just going to an interview that you're ticking off on your co-op, like, oh, I have 100, I don't really care. I'm just going to try and like land anywhere. Because there are going to be other people who are applying who are actually interested in the place. So, but mostly the most important thing, even if your portfolio is smaller or not up to par to like what they could be doing, like I went into Zero not doing any animation, like other than character animation. I'd never done like simulations and stuff like that. So obviously I was a little nervous, but the fact that I showed up and was super present and asking questions and like generally cannot speak, generally really nice. Like just look like you want to be there. Try not to look like you want to die, That's my advice.
Yeah. Also, you can ask like lighthearted questions like that are specific to the company. I know when I toured it, they were like, "Oh, here's the big snack wall. Like, come and get a snack whenever you want." And there are all these options. And so I asked him later, I was like, "So, like, what's your favorite snack on the snack wall?" Like, and that kind of got a little spark in the meeting. It was good. So just be observant too while you're being in the interview.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same things. Like just making sure that you come in with questions is, I feel like, the most important thing. Just because then, like B has been saying, like you show that you're present and engaged. And like if you bring up even just like, oh, I noticed that you guys worked on this recently and that was really cool, then that also will really show that you're really engaged in everything that's going on at their company.
Yeah, that was really good advice. Okay, so once you've landed the co-op, what were some like unexpected things that you guys found out when you were there? And how did sort of your expectations and the job description of your work line up with what you actually did and what the experience was like?
So, okay.
Do you want to go, Anthony?
Yeah, you went first last time.
Okay.
So when I was applying for co-ops, I was very busy. I'm sure we're all very busy. And so I went on the NU portal and I looked around. I was like, okay, there's Wayfair. And I was with my friends and we were like, what is this like 3D visualization thing? I didn't even know what it was. And I went on their website and there was like this, if you've ever played Webkins and tried to like rearrange your room, like you could like plan out what your room would look like in like this crap beep Wayfair like thing with these chairs and stuff. And me and my friend were like, oh my God, you're applying to do this. How hilarious. Like, and then I got an interview and it's like, oh my God, like, is this actually what I'm going to be doing? Like making assets for this like weird online thing. But it turned out to be completely different. It's everything on the magazines is fake and like CG and like, and so that was a surprise. Even during the interview, I was like, yeah, I know Substance Painter. Yeah, I know all this stuff. But during the interview, I realized like how serious like this was. Because in the job description, it was like, just make sure you know these like programs and everything. Also during the interview, a good question that they asked me, which I remember the most because I was like, that it didn't stump me, but it was like, it's like, give an example of a time you received feedback and like how you responded to it. So that's just something to think about. It's just like how you're responding to feedback. And something I didn't expect was the manager that I had put me under another manager that he had. And so she didn't really care about me as much, not in a bad way. She was very nice when I talked to her, but being proactive about getting work from her while not seeming like a nuisance was kind of like an internal battle. Like how much can I bug her, but also how much can I play on the programs and like learn about it. So I guess try and make the most of it because I kind of regret it after COVID happened. I was all online. It was harder to kind of communicate with my team. So yeah, I'm done.
I had like a pretty close relationship with my manager. Like our team was 5 people plus me. So like I was pretty close on when we had like meetings every other day about like who's doing what work, checking on who's doing what. If this person has too much stuff, can this person like pick up some slack for them, stuff like that. So I'd say a lot of like the different version of the same struggle Anthony had was, it wasn't asking for work. It was more like just being to gauge how much you're capable of. Like if I wanted the work, I could usually get it. And also like feel free to talk to your managers at whatever position you get. And usually if you say like, I'm interested in this kind of stuff, they will try to give you some projects like that. Like I've been doing a bunch like the pretty run of the mill kind of tickets that we would get. And I just remember saying I wanted to work on some stuff with the broadcast team. So I ended up doing like text animations over like a TV ad, which was like a really cool experience to be able to like work directly with broadcast and see like their idea for the shoot they did and stuff like that. So that was like really cool to get to experience. And I guess something that was like unexpected was like how easy it is to like fall into a routine. I don't know if this might just be a personal thing, but I found like I was kind of like after say a month or two, you kind of just fall into a groove, and then it's maybe about halfway you kind of like force yourself, like Anthony was saying, like to take advantage of the stuff that's there. So I would say just like try not to fall too much into a routine and like really try to take advantage of all the stuff that your company and your like coworkers can give you.
Yeah, that's really solid advice. One of the most unexpected things I feel like about both of the co-ops I have, and I mean, I'm currently working part-time at the VR lab, is like how much downtime you might end up having, just depending on like how the company is doing and what's going on with the company. Like just being able to like fill up your time with something valuable and something that you feel will help you out in the long run is something that was super important. Like I ended up learning ZBrush basically while I was at Zero, when I was waiting for work to be given to me, which ended up being super helpful like in the next semester with classes. Like I ended up using what I had learned, and if I hadn't done that, then I would have like really struggled the next semester. So I think just being able to utilize any sort of downtime that you have to learn something or just like improve your skills is really important.
Yeah, going off of that, I had, since my manager didn't really care about me that much, I had a lot of downtime to explore in the programs, and I made like screensavers and stuff, and like they posted in the Slack channel, the general, and it's like, look at this guy, like making cool stuff. But at the same time, it's like, I kind of have no time, but at least I'm learning the programs. So yeah, like I miss V-Ray so much. It was so fun.
I second that.
All right. So next question. It's on portfolio websites. So we can do this really quick. If you guys just want to go around and say where you're hosting your website. I don't know if you want to elaborate on it anymore, but it'll just to see where people are sort of putting their stuff.
Are you talking about what is also on our website? Like,
no, we will ask that later, but just what you're using to host your website.
Oh yeah.
Like Wix, Squarespace.
Yeah. I use Squarespace, but that costs money. So like, if you don't want to use that, that's totally fine. You can use like ArtStation, like Santa Cola did. And yeah, no worries if you don't want to like dish out the pennies, or more like the dollars.
I did dish out the dollars for ArtStation when I was applying for co-ops though. And because there was like a sale to like lock down a low price forever. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I use Wix, and then I have like namecheap.com to host like my URL. So it costs money and it's really annoying, but I feel like it's worth it to be able to say that you have a .com. It makes it pretty easy to
Also,
direct people.
Like, regardless of like what host website you use, as long as it's basically your name and not like Mario Kart 64 kid at gmail.com, then like you're gonna be pretty much fine. Just make sure it's appropriate and like your name.
Yeah, like mine's hosted through Adobe Portfolio because I already had a personal Adobe account. So mine's literally just ianmorris.myportfolio.com. So that's where I host my stuff. It makes it pretty easy to like organize like collections of work is what they call it on the site. Like I just actually went back in and added stuff from my co-op to apply because I'm applying again for the spring.
Nice. And Now, sort of going off that question, what are some things that you should put on your portfolio, and sort of what are some ways that you can organize it?
I'd say the main thing is put stuff that you will be willing to talk about. Don't put any piece on that you're either A, not proud enough of, or B, don't think you put enough work into to like really talk about, because at least like when I interviewed, they would say like, oh, I saw this project in your portfolio. Can you pull it up and like tell me like how you got to where you did? And then you like go through your creative process. So if you have something where you don't feel you can do that, probably not worth including. And I know like when you're going for your first one, I felt like I didn't have like anything. So the only other thing I would say on that is like, don't go the opposite extreme and like set the bar too high for yourself. Like stuff that you worked hard on, even if you're not like, don't think it's your best work ever, that probably is worth including. So I'd say it's like finding the happy medium there.
Yeah, I feel like most employers know that like we're students and that you're not going to have like, your reel isn't going to be all movies or really cool like ads or anything like that. Like you haven't gotten to that point yet, and that's okay. And so yeah, I feel like just including like 3 or 4 at least of your like best pieces is the most important aspect to having it on your site. And then also making sure that it's like super organized and easy to find your work, so that way you could have like your about page, that way you can link your resume there, and then also just having like, maybe you're interested in 2D art and 3D art, so maybe you could split your portfolio into 2 different pieces. That way then you can link to your like desired like the people who you're applying to. If they only do 3D stuff, you don't want them looking at your 2D stuff because they don't care about that. So making sure that your portfolio is organized into the different subcategories is also really helpful.
Something that, I don't know who told me this, but basically recruiters are going to judge you by your worst work, essentially. So if you have 5 pieces that are like medium quality and you have 2 pieces that are high quality and 1 piece that's like low quality. Okay, I did not explain that correctly. 5 pieces versus like they're okay versus like 2 really good pieces that are like really outstanding. It's better to have less but have higher quality. So like, does that make any sense?
Yeah, like don't feel like you need to have it like full to the brim of stuff. Like Ashley said, like they know you're a student. You're not going to have a professional animator's level of work in your portfolio yet.
Yeah, when I applied on NU career thing or whatever, it's like submit a work sample. And I think the only thing they looked at, they were like, oh, let's do this person, is because there was a project we did to like recreate a living space or a room space in Animation 1. And that project, I think, single-handedly just like got me the thing, because it was like, oh, this kid does furniture and he can put it in the room, make it look
yeah,
really.
that was pretty much your job description, wasn't it?
That was it. Like doing that project was the thing. Like, oh, you can do God rays coming out the window. This kid, click. Like, and also I think I'm the only person who applied, which is really nice.
Jason actually was in contact with Wayfair and was like, I'll send you kids. I know what you want.
He did. He said he put in a good word, which was nice.
Yeah, like Jason actually taught my manager like 10 years ago.
I miss Jason. I miss you too, B.
Yeah. I miss you, Anthony. I haven't seen you in person yet this semester.
Yeah,
So
but we have a group project together, so you're fine. You get your fill.
Right. Next question. Any tips for resumes in particular? Things to add, things to not have, all that good stuff.
I know the way I set mine up was I put like relevant experience in its own category, which was like just like little freelance stuff I've done for people. And then I put like my other actual work experience just so they could see like, yes, I have experience working with other people in a working environment, whether it's like working at like McDonald's or whatever. You want to include that stuff, but definitely don't make that the highlight. And then I don't know how many of you guys are media arts, but I know I took typography the fall before I went on co-op, and like the first project was literally designing your resume. And I thought that helped me like make it look nice, make it look like well designed, and not just like some of the science ones you see that are just like all chunky text just all the way down. So I at least put a little bit of thought in how you lay it out, I would say.
I think also something that a lot of people don't think about is like use active voice when you're writing. Um, if you're gonna like use similar sentence structure, so if you have like two job titles and it's like barber, cut hair, like retail, I worked at the cash register. Those are like two completely different formats, obviously. So like make sure everything's consistent. Make sure that you're like everything's capitalized if you capitalize it. Everything is italicized if you italicize only the dates. Like they'll catch that stuff and they'll be like, this person didn't have their friend look over it or they're not careful. So like I literally looked at my resume for like 2 weeks and like I sent it to my mom and my dad and they sent me back everything. And then I revised it and there's still stuff wrong with it. So shout out to my parents for not being there for me when I needed them the most. But yeah, just make sure to double, triple, million check your resume. You don't want to look like a fool.
Yeah, and I would say also it could be helpful to put like what programs you know if you do like any sort of animation work. Because I feel like employers, anytime you go to interviews, are always asking like, do you know how to use Maya? Do you know how to like work with VR stuff? Do you know like what do you know? So I think it helps just to be like, all right, here's my skills, run with that.
All right. And then we have sort of some more relevant questions. Like, I know this is a thing that if people are applying for co-ops right now, is very much on their minds, is how has COVID affected being on co-op? If any of you guys have experienced that, or if you're currently applying for co-ops again, how are you sort of working with that?
Okay, you can go.
Wayfair I was really lucky to be there because they were very supportive of working from home. Literally just got to take the laptop that I used every day anyways, and it's just at home, would just clock in, have all the meetings on like, we used Google Meet, but essentially Zoom. And I worked like pretty much the exact same as I did for the first like 2/3 of my co-op just from home. I know a lot of other people weren't so lucky. Like some people just like got canceled right away and I just lost like almost half the co-op. But for working from home, I definitely, for like, I'd say the first month of working from home, I was not doing very well. Like if there was definitely like a dip, a little bit in the quality of my work, like not that bad, but it's just harder to stay accountable. And I'm sure you guys are all experiencing that with your classes as well. So
I mean, there was a global pandemic. So
yeah, like it was like even my coworkers, like my bosses were like also having a hard time like staying focused and on track. But like I know my team like tried to do like weekly hangout meetings for fun where we would like play like Scriblio or like some online fun little game to like wrap up the end of the day or the end of the week, just to like kind of keep that bonding even though we were all stuck at home. So whatever you have to do to keep yourself going, it's good.
So I was personally applying to co-ops during COVID times, and I ended up getting my co-op official like in the system the day that classes started. So like honestly, it's never too late to get a co-op. I know that people like are always freaking out about like deadlines and stuff like that, but like especially with the global pandemic and everything being like kind of chaotic, like you have plenty of time to find stuff, and like even if it ends up being right down to the line. But I would say just like currently just making sure like that you are available for your like whoever you might be trying to work for, and making sure that you are like, hi, I can be home, I can work. Like if you have work for someone to do, like please give it to me. It's difficult now, like applying for stuff, but I'm sure there's stuff on the co-op portal and everything like that. And there are people still looking for work because at this point, we've all been working from home for so long that we're going to have to keep moving on.
Very true. All right. And another question that is sort of, maybe not everyone has done, but if anyone has made their own co-op, if they wanted to talk about that and sort of how they went about doing that.
Well, my co-op, kind of like the Zero co-op, it's actually stemmed from an internship. So I did the the fall internship where you would have to go in either 2 or 3 days out of the week and kind of work on a project and then do side jobs like, getting coffee and stuff like that, normal intern stuff. But it was a time to like ask questions of people in the office and, kind of build repertoire and, have, it's just overall a good experience. And they came up to me and said, "Are you looking for a co-op?" I said, "Yes." They offered me it. So, even if you can't nag a co-op, like right out of the, what's the expression? Right out of the bag? Right out of the,
Out of the
fence?
gate?
I don't know. Out of the gate. Oh, yeah. It's similar to a fence. You can find other ways. Like, if you're planning on, like, maybe just do it like a side part-time job or an internship. Like, regardless, co-ops are meant to, boost your resume as well as your skills. So if you don't end up finding a co-op or you can't make a co-op somewhere with like a studio or a company that you would like to work at, there's always like opportunities hidden. Don't lose hope.
Yeah, and another option is like you could go about trying to create your own co-op by coming up with some sort of like learning opportunity. Before I got the part-time at the VR co-op, I was just going to be doing a class through CG Masters Academy learning Houdini, which is something that's like relevant if you were like, you look at my capstone and stuff like that. So I was in communication with the co-op advisor about like, hey, what if I did like a self-started co-op about like, I will report to you about what I've been learning each week, and here's like what I'm going to do. So that's like the second half of my co-op is sort of my own self-directed learning experience, since I'm only working part-time. So like you can make things work for you, and as long as you are learning something, that's like the main focus of a co-op.
Yeah, didn't that one, I don't know her name, but I know on a animation final showcase thing, she just did like a class or something like online.
Yeah.
What was that?
Someone was doing, I think, a animation mentor class.
That was Sam, Blue Hair Sam.
Yeah, Sam was doing an animation mentor class, and that was most of her capstone was just her being like, hey, here's what I'm learning from this class. So, I mean, you can go about learning and taking advantage of other opportunities outside of Northeastern however you might need to, because I know Northeastern might not necessarily be teaching everything that you might want to personally learn or what might be part of your personal like aspirations for professional life. And that's okay. Like there are so many opportunities out there.
Yeah, I think taking a non-conventional route, even if like all of your STEM friends are like, I got a co-op and I'm getting $300 an hour, and like you're afraid because you can't do that and you feel like there's no opportunities, like figure out what you would like to do, maybe something that you're interested in, and then just like figure out ways to do it and how it fits into the co-op like program. Because like really your life is just exactly what you want to do, and just find ways to do it, and don't care if it doesn't look like a co-op. Just learn.
And it doesn't really matter if your co-op advisor is like, well, I don't know if that'll work. As long as you're learning and you can get it to set through, like, go for it.
That's very helpful. That is good advice. And then if you guys have any, just so we're sort of wrapping up the pre-made questions. If you guys have any just advice for new students starting co-op, some of the stuff that's really stuck with you that you've learned throughout it, and you want to share it now, your time.
I think a lot of people who are in the working world know of as much or as little as you do. They are always like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm just going to Google search this and hope by the end of the day my boss doesn't ask me about this, and that I can just like go home. Like people who are your coworkers and people who are applying to jobs as like you are just as clueless about the things that you are. So like just shoot your shot, and if you get shot down, shoot it somewhere else. Like don't take anything personally, and just try and, live the life you want to live, and just keep going at it, That's all.
Similarly to that, in my like Houdini class today, my professor literally just said like, everybody doesn't really know what they're doing. Like he like works for a studio, and he's like, I have to Google things and open up previous files because I've forgotten something like that I just did a couple months ago. And so it's okay that you don't know everything. Like he sort of talked about it, like learning animation or learning really anything in a profession is sort of like a puzzle, to where like you're just sort of like figuring out the corner pieces like through classes and learning and tutorials, and then you're slowly building up the picture, and one day you'll be able to actually like look at it without having to look at the box, and you'll be able to like complete the puzzle or something like that. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, that like you don't have to know everything, like nobody knows anything.
I have one little thing to add too. The majority of like what an interview actually is figuring out if you're somebody who is fun to work with or is good to work with. Because if you're stubborn and you don't like to work with other people, or you're not friendly, they're gonna already flag you regardless of how good you are. Like my supervisor at my first co-op was like, yeah, you could be literally the smartest person at knowing X, Y, and Z, but if you're an a-hole, you're not going to get the job. So like, if you think that you're not nice, maybe be nice. I don't know. But I think there's a lot of friendly people at Northeastern. So I don't think that's a big deal, but I just thought that was important, that a lot of it is just in your demeanor and how good you are at making like small talk and being like overall friendly.
I think that's what that question was in the interview, about like how give an example of how you received feedback and criticism and like how you responded to it. It was just sort of also pointed towards, what's your personality like? Like, can you take that? Can you take a feedback?
Like if you're like, oh, I got really mad and I threw a desk out of the window.
I don't think you would, but saying like, yeah, they just said something and I was like, no way, that's wrong, and blah. Or like you didn't have anything to say, like that just shows that you're just not remembering feedback, or bad at adjusting your work, like you're being stubborn. So
Yeah.
Take feedback with stride. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah, just like a small note going off that is like, if you got an interview, they saw your portfolio, they saw your resume, and they think you're qualified, like the interview is kind of just to, like you said, like to make sure you're a fit. So don't feel like you have to like oversell yourself. Like just be yourself, show them who you are. Still obviously be nice and presentable and professional, but they just want to know who you are at that point, not what your work is like.
Awesome. Well, if no one else has anything they want to say, we're going to open up for audience questions. I'm going to check and see when anyone, I think the link is in the chat. We have like a special like online Q&A if you don't want to talk, but we're a pretty small group. So if you just want to sort of turn off mute and ask your question for anyone here about anything with co-op, the job search, feel free. That was your time.
How long did like the overall application process take you guys, like on average?
Like starting from what point to what point, like sort of knowing where you want to apply to, and then to the end where you know you have a co-op, or from what point?
Yeah, no, from like finding, like when you first apply, you find a place you like, you first apply and then get the confirmation that you got the co-op.
For me, I think it was like I had 3 places I applied to. I applied to them all at once. I think it took about a span of 2 weeks for them to get back to me, and set up an interview for like some time during that week, and then sort of a week of deliberation. This was for my second co-op, like because I kind of got my first one from another circumstance. But yeah, overall it took about a little less than a month to secure it, and like, no, but obviously it's different for everyone. Some places take forever to respond, and like if that's not your gig, it's totally cool. Just like you're like, like I'm just gonna go somewhere where they like value my application more. So yeah.
Well, I have a question. So I went on NUWorks like a few days ago, and there was one animation co-op that I saw, and like the link to the website to the company doesn't even work. So I'm like, where I don't know where all the the opportunities are. Like I don't see Wayfair or Red Sox or like the previous.
Wayfair's co-op doesn't do it every year, at least for my,
Mm.
because I've never heard of it, and I guess they should do it every like 2 or 3 years. It's like when they
Yeah.
need it, they'll like put it out.
And the other thing is, I'm having the same thing because like I'm trying to start applying again. This is my first time using NUWorks because like last year was NU Careers, and I feel like the search function just isn't good. But I don't know what other people have to say about that.
It's different now.
Yeah, it's a new site and it sucks, in my opinion.
Typical.
Yeah, that's typical.
Like
of
if you thought
Northeastern.
NU Careers was bad, check out NUWorks. Like the search function, like you'll search something and then a bunch of positions that don't have the keyword you put in will come up. So I don't know what it's searching for the keyword. And then they also have like you can search by industry, but I feel like no employers actually flagged the positions. So like I clicked art and design and nothing came up. So like it sucks, but you just have to dig.
I would say also reach out to whoever your co-op professor is. I'm assuming it's Jen.
Yeah.
I would reach out to her and just pester her and see what opportunities are there. And also, honestly, I kind of had to do that with her. So just, yeah. But also, both of my co-ops I got from talking to my professors pretty much. So like, I would also reach out to like Jason or just any professors that you like got along well with and say like, hey, do you know of any opportunities, or is there any way I could work with you? Because like, I mean, it's COVID times, like maybe that'll be something that's more applicable now for co-ops.
Also, I happen to know that the Red Sox isn't offering a co-op this like upcoming spring. Yeah, we're in the fall right now.
And I'm pretty sure they canceled their fall co-op too.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Maybe there's no harm in reaching out. I mean, seriously, sending an email being like, hi, I haven't seen you guys on the website. Just curious. Like, I am like, don't really know how to phrase this, but it's essentially just as if you were reaching out to any other company that's not necessarily on NUWorks, apparently, not careers. But as far as like, if you can't find anything through NUWorks, maybe just look up local studios in Boston, or if you're trying to stay home, I think New Jersey, right? I think you're in New Jersey. But it's worth a shot, you know. If you don't get an email back, like that's just the way.
You like cut off for a long time and I didn't hear what you said after New Jersey.
That's my internet right there. Basically, I just said shoot your shot. If there's a place near you that you maybe are interested in, even if there's a design job, it doesn't necessarily have to be animation. Like anything's better than nothing, kind of, but don't do something that's totally out of like art and design, I guess, or just do a class and make sure it's a co-op thing. You know, NUWorks is not going to help you. You have to kind of go out in the world for animation co-ops, which is kind of frustrating when you're like just starting off and you're feeling afraid. So if you need any advice, you can talk to anybody who has done a co-op and they'll tell you the same exact thing. So we've got your back.
Also, there might be like opportunities within other co-ops that aren't necessarily like animation related that maybe they would be interested in adjusting it to work with you. Like it also could help to just reach out to someone and be like, hi, I'm interested in this aspect of animation and I know that this is what your co-op is about, but like, is there any way that maybe we could work something out, like, and I could help you guys out with whatever you might need.
Gabriel.
Thank you. I just had I think I asked this at the last co-op panel that we did, but I'm going to ask it again because I'm curious. General thoughts on unpaid internships and co-ops?
They're definitely out there and there's more of them. I was in a position where like, it was really not a huge option for me. So I was lucky enough to get a full-time paid position, but I guess it just comes down to like what you're comfortable doing. I personally am not a fan. I mean, obviously, I feel like no one's really a big fan, but me more so than others. But yeah, it's pretty much down to like what you're comfortable with and if you value how much you value the experience. Like, I wouldn't just do any old co-op unpaid unless you really thought the experience was actually valuable.
Yeah, I second that. I was offered a co-op position to work unpaid in New York currently, but it was doing video things, which isn't really what I'm interested in. But if I was really interested in video stuff and I wanted to go to New York, then that would have been a great opportunity. But like, it really just depends on your circumstance. Like, I personally was not in a circumstance to where I could just up and move to New York while having an apartment in Boston and probably pay for 2 different apartments. So like, it really just depends. But like, I also did similarly to be with the Zero co-op. I was an intern for the whole summer, and then I was a co-op in the fall, which I know is kind of different because most animation people are not fall co-ops. But like, I worked unpaid for 4 months, and then I worked paid for 4 months, and it ended up working out really well and being a really great experience. So it sort of just depends on like if the experience is like something that you're capable of like doing unpaid, and also like if it's worth it.
I have a question. What was one of the coolest things that you guys were able to do on co-op? And I just think it's nice to hear about.
Did you say what was the coolest thing?
Yeah, one of the coolest things that you got to do.
Anyone wants to go?
What was the question?
The coolest thing you did on co-op?
Oh, okay.
Anthony, you go first.
Okay, I made pasta. So it was really cool, trust me, because I had to like take a pasta box that was basically a cube because I did a lot of like refurbishing assets. So I would get this pasta box and I'd go and like, okay, the window, instead of just having an image of the pasta, I had to like make a mask and make this part of the texture like see through and then actually fill it with pasta. And so like that whole simulation process was like a whole thing, and like it was just bouncing everywhere and not listening to me at all. But the cool part was like working around that problem and like figuring out you could like take a shape and like substitute a shape. So like I had a bunch of cylinders fall that were the shape of the pasta and then like substitute it all into pasta, and it worked really nicely. So making the pasta fall, simulations, learning about simulations and texturing. I had not done texturing before. Making pasta, the skin of a pasta was very fun.
Wait, what? Can I ask what program you used for that?
It was in 3ds Max and V-Ray. You know, also making an opal texture. One of the people challenged me, like, because I had all this time or whatever. She's like, "Oh, you like making textures? You should make like something like cool, like opal." And I was like, "Okay." And so that was like my last thing that I worked on and then rendered out. It's like the most recent thing on my portfolio.
I'd say one of the coolest things was at Zero. I worked on making like this asset for the movie The Sleepover, which is out on Netflix. And like I was able to watch the movie and then see like my little cabinet that I made come into view and like get lasered and stuff like that. And so like I'm not in the credits or anything, but it's cool that like I can watch something. And even though I did not watch the rest of the movie because the movie looks kind of weird, it's a children's movie, so whatever. It's still cool to be like, hey, parents, look, I did something, and look, you can go on Netflix and there's something I did. So like just being able to like show the fact that you are capable of doing something, I feel like to people who like don't really fully understand what you're doing is kind of cool.
Yeah, I can echo that same thing. There's like 2 things. One of the biggest things I did was every time there was like a sale or a new campaign, I would help animate the banner that went on the homepage for Wayfair's website. It's a furniture company, if you don't know. And just having people like relatives or like my mom be like, hey, I saw this banner on the homepage. Did you animate that? Like, it's just like a really cool kind of moment. Be like, yeah, I did that. And it's like on a thing that lots of people see. But as for the coolest thing to just work on, it was probably, I did like a set of 2 advertisements that like would play before a YouTube video. And I did like the text animations, which were kind of like a focal point for it. So like I worked with the illustration team, the broadcast team. So it's just really cool to have that all come together. And then when it was like finally shipped out, everyone watching was like, that's so good. Like, who did the animation on that? And I'd be like, yeah, that was me. And have like the whole creative team for advertising it for pretty much.
The coolest thing I did was work on ice animation for Little Women, like the movie that came out in, was that 2019, right? The winner, the new one with like Timothée Chalamet, or whatever the fuck his name is. So that was really cool, seeing my name in the credits and like crying in the theater like I'm a baby. Even though it's like you only did literally 0.5 seconds of something, just knowing that you're there, and doing like procedural animation for another Netflix thing that was really weird. But just like knowing that you have a credit in something, or something like Ashley, like you can see something on the screen and be like, oh my gosh, I spent 2 weeks in like Maya on that. Wow. Yeah, just really cool. You get to do cool stuff on co-op.
I have a quick question. It seems like a lot of people have been doing like really cool stuff, like effects and like 3D animation and stuff like that. I was wondering if do like college students get the opportunity to do like pre-production co-ops and stuff like storyboarding and stuff like that, or it's not really something that college students really get an opportunity to work on?
I think I'm gonna speak for myself and not necessarily everyone, but I know that like people have the things that they're like most interested in. I think none of us really looked for that stuff, but it probably is out there if you do search. Like I know for me, my co-op was like 95% After Effects, and I like using After Effects, so I got to do like all that kind of 2D stuff. It wasn't necessarily like storyboarding stuff, but I'm sure it's out there. It's not necessarily on any works, any careers, whatever. So you will have to like look and like send emails, and sometimes that's really hard. And I feel for you on that. Like I hate doing that kind of stuff too, but it's definitely out there somewhere.
I think the first thing you should do is kind of look at the work that you want to storyboard, and then say, okay, I know this studio does this kind of work. I'm gonna say, hey, I would like to do a internship here, and my interest is storyboarding, but you have to be open to doing other things in the process. But yeah, just knowing where the storyboard would be is a good like.
And there are like I think a few pre-production co-ops that have been on InUWorks in the past, but I don't know if I've seen anything about storyboarding. I just know storyboarding itself is like really hard to get into, so I don't know like if there are any specific storyboarding things, but there are definitely like pre-production co-ops, or at least there used to be. Hopefully there still are with COVID.
Thank you.
All right, if there's any last questions, it looks like we're sort of almost at time. So we have time for one more if anyone has anything. If not, then this will be the end of the meeting. And I don't know if Ash has anything else she wants to add. But thank you to all our panelists for showing up. It's super helpful as someone who's in the process of doing their first co-op. This has been very, very helpful. So thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions like ever about co-op, or just like maybe you need somebody to review your portfolio or something like that, I mean, like also the mentor mentee program is great for that, but also you can just email our email, neu animation@gmail.com, or you can just reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and we can help you out if you want someone to look over your portfolio or look over your resume, and we can give you pointers. Like we're all happy to do that because we all want to help out everyone here. And even if you're not animation and like maybe you're just some other part of CamD, like we're happy to help you out or like find resources to help you out. So please contact us if you need help with anything, or if you have any other questions like at all that come up.
I have a question directed at Ian. Your Adobe Portfolio website, under the 3D animation, it's like a GIF. It's like animated. How did you do that?
So where it says pick cover image, you can use a GIF for that, and it'll just play out.
It's that easy? Oh.
Yeah, it does it for you. That's all I did. It's
Oh,
a fun little thing.
I had no idea you could do that. Thank you.
No problem.